Hello my friends, let me just fix this camera here. Is that better? How are you all doing? I hope you're all keeping very, very well out there and painting wonderful pictures. Paintings rather. I can see a lot of you are doing lovely work. I see you on Facebook and you're messaging me and all that. It's fantastic. The work you're doing is brilliant, I must say. And it's fantastic to see how you have all progressed over the months. Some of your stuff is fantastic, it really is. So thank you for sending me all of those. Please do send me your work if you want some advice or anything like that. Just email me, stephenconway12@gmail.com. Just send it off to me and I'd love to see what you're doing. For this tutorial, I'm going to almost go back to basic techniques for the beginners, amateurs possibly. A lovely wide landscape again, a nice wide landscape. I put this up on my Patreon page for suggestions about 2 weeks ago. There was 4 different pictures and this one was a very long, narrow landscape with kind of a dark blue sky with bright yellow land coming across. I thought it was very eye-catching, so I'm going to do that. I'd like to do it. I'd like to try it. But just very simple, basic techniques. 1 or 2 brushes and a palette knife. Lots of palette knife work because it's a very good idea to get into a palette knife. Not to use brushes so much for every little thing. It's nice to just grab a palette knife, put some paint on and scratch it in and move it around, stuff like that. It's great practice. It just opens your mind up to different techniques. That's all it is. And wonderful effects you can get with a palette knife. So let's do this lovely wide little landscape. Nice and colourful, very eye-catching, but actually quite simple. Very, very, very easy to do. Anyone could probably do this. So let's try it. I'm excited about this. This is just a nice simple landscape. I love painting stuff like this, which is just quite simply done. There's not too much in the actual painting, but when you stand back and you see the painting, then it's really eye-catching, only because of the colours. So let's go and try it, have a bit of fun. Okay? Grab your stuff if you want to follow me along. I'll be right back. Okay, my friends, this is it. My canvas. It's 24 inches by 8. Very wide, very narrow canvas. Anything similar will do, even a regular square canvas, you could do this as well. But this has a lovely impact, I find. I have my white tile, my white ceramic wall tile. Okay. My colours are titanium white, burnt sienna, cadmium yellow pale, burnt umber, magenta, phaylo blue, naples yellow, lamp black, and some cadmium red as well. I might not even need it, but I just put a piece on there just for the land, possibly. I don't know. I'll wait and see. There's a reference photograph. Isn't that lovely? It's very simple but very effective, I think. We'll have a bit of fun with sky and clouds in this, I think. So let's carry on. Let's go and have a bit of fun. Some linseed oil with some turpentine. Okay, a little drop of that. I have palette knives, 2 palette knives, nice simple cheap palette knives. And I'm going to start with a large brush. I'm simply going to fill in the sky now with a nice blue. Okay, dampen the brushes, dry it on some tissue. Let me just make sure now my brush is nice and clean here. I need to give it a little swish around on my board here just to make sure it's soft. I have a terrible habit of letting brushes go hard by accident, by complete accident, and I don't dry them or clean them properly. So they do end up with little bits of paint in them, which is very annoying sometimes. I think I'm just one of these lazy kind of artists. Okay, large brush. Let's grab some phaylo blue. And I'm going to go with some titanium white in there as well. You just want to mix a nice sort of a creamy colour, all right? A nice thin creamy colour. I'll take a little magenta. So I'm going back into my colours now just to darken this down to what I want. I'm going to go for a dark-ish colour and then lighten it as I need to. So plenty of blue and plenty of magenta, I would say. The little touch of magenta just warms it up ever so slightly to give you a very rich, vibrant, kind of a deep, almost royal kind of a blue. Let me try that. Okay, I'll go with that. I'm just going to pop this in across. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's really only a base colour, that's all, just from something to work upon. So I generally do this when I'm painting skies like this. I put a kind of a middle colour in there first, and then I work lights and darks on top of that. But it doesn't have to be perfect. Any colour at all that you have will do fine. I also put a bit of masking tape across here just to help me along, just to create a nice clear line. Doesn't have to be perfect. Again, you don't even need this really, to be quite honest. But I think it's just a good guide where to stop the sky, you know what I mean? A little bit more blue, a little more magenta. Let's add a bit more pink into the mix over on this side, perhaps. A little touch of pink, magenta over here. And don't forget now, we have a lot of cloud going on this with the palette knife in a moment. And I'm going to try and do all the clouds with a palette knife. Just for fun, really. Because, do you know what, my friends? Sometimes I get kind of bored from using a brush all the time for stuff. You know, you'll probably feel the same way. It's nice just to grab a knife sometimes and just go for it and have a bit of fun with a palette knife. Nothing else, just a palette knife. Now, phthalo blue and a little black. And I want to go nice and dark, just along like that. And you can see we have a very dark spot over on the right hand side, don't we? So phthalo blue, a little black, and some magenta. And I'm going to make that nice and dark over here. Also, what I will say to you is, on that photograph, there's a lot of rich blue up in the sky. I was thinking I might just tone that down ever so slightly to make it not so blue, if you understand what I mean. Now, it's a lovely colour, but I don't know, I was just kind of thinking, perhaps if I just added a bit more of a grey blue into it, it might make a difference. Now, I'm just softening a bit of blue with my brush across like this, look. And that's just sort of giving me, I suppose, the shadow side of that cloud. Let's get more phthalo blue, more magenta, plenty of each, and then a bit of black. I want to kind of soften the blue a little bit in the painting. I don't want it so rich and in your face kind of a blue. So that black with the magenta will really help kind of knock the vibrancy out of the sky just a bit. You don't have to. You can just put a lovely rich dark blue across this if you like. It's completely up to yourself, really. All right. Now, I'm done with that. I think that's not bad. I might just grab a little phthalo blue on my brush, just possibly for here. Maybe just a little bit of rich blue just there. Again, it's for no apparent reason other than just adding a bit of richness on one side. So, I'm done with that brush. Now I'm going to grab my palette knife. I think I will go for this one. Simple palette knife, or any other type of palette knife you have will do just fine. I'm going to take some white and I'm going to go into this mix that I have here. See that lovely dark mix we just had? I'm going to go into that. I'm also going to take a touch of cadmium red this time, mix it in with that, because that touch of cadmium red will soften the grey so it's not as rich or vibrant. Just gives it a nice warm kind of a value to the grey. Just warm it ever so slightly with some of that. Pick some of that up. Now, let's just go for it. I'm going to go around in little circles like this. And you see the way I'm just softening this back into the darker colour. And it's just that simple, my friends, really. That's all you need to do. Just have a bit of fun with your palette knife. And we have a lot of that kind of grey colour up here, don't we? So scraping it along, just like that. Let's mix up a bit more of this. Let's go with some black, a little blue. Do you know, you could even put in a bit of burnt umber if you want, and then some white. There's all sorts of mixes you could do with this. You know, the burnt umber makes it more of a warm grey. You could then pop a little bit of red in there. And then more white again. It's all about just experimenting with colours. That's what I love about painting. I'm kind of, as I'm doing this now, I'm experimenting with colours to see what kind of colours can I mix. You know, look, we have a kind of a browny grey there now. That's nice. Let's just pop a little bit of that in there. Let it disappear. Sort of scratching it around. You could maybe take a touch of magenta, pop a bit of magenta in there. That'll make the grey slightly sort of a pinkyish kind of a grey. And that's a lovely colour for shadowy clouds, that kind of thing, that kind of a colour. Now, take a bit more white, lighten it a bit. So it's all about just having a bit of fun. That's really what I'm trying to get across with this tutorial. Just about having some fun and not being tied and restricted to certain techniques. You can do any technique that you like. It's your painting. If you want to scribble some paint on there with anything at all, plastic knife or a spoon or whatever it is you like to use. Everybody likes to use different equipment when they're painting, and I'm just trying to show you how. Just grab a palette knife and go for it, and don't be shy. Don't be shy, because if you say to yourself, oh, I'm afraid in case I ruin the painting, then already you're preventing yourself from learning. You're cutting off the learning experience immediately. You're not giving yourself a chance. And that's what it's all about in painting. Give yourself a chance to learn. So let's take a bit of phthalo blue, some magenta, and a little touch of black. I'm going for a nice dark colour here now. Nice rich dark, sort of a blacky blue kind of a colour. And I'm going to go in underneath these, look, and just drag that along. And I'm holding my knife now flat, completely flat on the canvas like that, okay? Completely flat. And just letting the knife sort of swish around, mixing it up here and there. Already we can see a lovely little sky coming into focus on our canvas, can't we? Put a little bit there like that as well, look. Can pop a little bit up there. Because remember, in the sky, the dark clouds are just as important as the bright white clouds. Because it's these dark clouds which will help those bright whites jump off the canvas. Just remember that. So don't be shy. Don't be afraid to put some dark, really dark, blacky kind of clouds in here and there. It will all help in the end. So I'm just going along like this now, scratching my knife around in little circles. Come down here and soften these ones out. You could even just drag it across like that, look, if you like. Bring it down at an angle, create some direction. You know, I'm not really too worried about messing it up. Now, I'm going to stop at that. I'm going to take my soft brush and just maybe soften a few of these around. Just lose some of the kind of the knife marks as this. Just kind of get rid of some of them. Soften some of them out. Create some softness in the sky. You see what I mean? That's all. It's just, you don't have to be absolutely perfect with all of this. That's that done. Now we're going on to the brights. And with the brights, for me, it's simply a case of grabbing some white, and I might maybe feel I want to take a little touch of cadmium red, perhaps, for no particular reason, just to make it a very kind of a warm white to start me off, and then I'll lighten it if I feel it needs to be brighter. But I will start with this sort of soft pinkish white. It's kind of a difficult colour to explain. Not pure white, just kind of a little bit of a pink going through the white, that's all. Now clean your knife, and then we just come along like this. It's all for me, all about just scraping and being very loose with the technique. For me, when I'm doing something like this, I like to just sort of let the palette knife sort of dance around, or if it's a brush, just leave it kind of dance around, and they will create their own little patterns as they go along. I love that about painting, especially with oils. You can let the brush or the knife just kind of dance around, and I don't have to worry about this just drying in very quickly like acrylics. I know I can leave this for 2 hours if I want, come back, I can still work on it. And that for me is what I love about oil painting. Acrylics are great in their own right as well. They're fantastic for painting outdoors and whatnot. But for me in the studio, oil paint is just on a different level. There's so much you can do with oil paints. They're so versatile. A lot of people find them difficult. I think they're actually quite nice. Now, this big one here, look at that, look. I'm just going to go along. I'm not copying the photograph exactly. I'm just kind of looking at where the blobs of paint are, and I'm putting a few in here and there. You see that? Just popping them in. And another one just here. And then a lot of this, you see, I will soften with the palette or with the soft brush later. So don't worry if this is all not absolutely perfect the way you want this to be the first time. It's never going to be perfect the first time. It's when you come to sort of softening the colours later, that's when the magic happens. So right now I know it just looks like a mess of colour on the canvas. But you'll see very soon now, when I start softening this with my soft brush, it's all going to just sort of soften together in beautiful little ways, and it'll just look like nice clouds up in the sky. Just have a bit of fun. The key is fun for me. Fun. That's what I keep trying to push when I'm painting, with all my paintings. It's just fun. Have fun. Don't be cautious and restrictive all the time. So I have my soft brush here. Let's just have a bit of fun with this. Let's perhaps swoop them down as if there's rain sort of coming down into the sky in that direction like that. Then I'm going to flatten them out as they come further down. Then come straight across. And with this one here, I'm just going to sort of allow it to kind of flick down and out to the side. You see that? Flick down and out to the side. And then with this one, you could just let it sort of soften away off to the distance. And come straight across the bottom then like that. Now you can go this way as well. Just creating nice soft textures in the sky. As if there's very kind of strong stormy clouds up there getting ready to come down. Isn't that right? Look, you can go as far with this as you like, or you can stop. It's completely up to yourself. You know, I prefer just to keep it simple. Sometimes simple is actually best, because, and I apologize now if I'm kind of rambling on, but a lot of stuff I see, especially on tutorials, people just keep going at it and going at it, and they keep fiddling with a sky like this. And sometimes they just make it worse than what it actually was at the beginning. Sometimes if they just leave it alone after a couple of minutes, it's actually a really beautiful sky. But I just feel now I just want to put another tiny amount of warm white, perhaps magenta with a little white. Very soft white, a pinky kind of a white. I think I might just put a little bit of that just around here and there. I'm going to even just scrape it along, look. You don't have to try and paint little clouds and all of that kind of stuff. You could just grab your palette knife and swirl it like this. And the great thing about using the palette knife is, as you're going along, is picking up other colours as well. So you can see now, look, that's a nice little shape we have there of some clouds, kind of being blown along the sky by perhaps a very strong wind or whatever. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's our painting. We can make it what we like. Isn't that right? So look, nice simple sky done. Let's move on. Take off the masking tape. We do have a layer of mountains off in the distance, way off in the distance, but I'm not going to worry about mountains just yet. I'm going to get a brush, a medium kind of a flat brush, and I'm going to fill this in with a medium shade colour. Now you can see there's lots of yellow down there, and there's lots of dark browns and blacks as well. So what I'm proposing we should do, or what I would do, is perhaps take a medium shade and fill that in with a medium shade. So let's say, for instance, burnt umber and burnt sienna, and perhaps a tiny amount of black. So we could just use this colour now to fill that land in completely. And this is the type of technique where I learned from a very young age. I started doing this technique myself when I was really young, and I found it gave me a lot more control over colours in my landscape. So by doing this, I was able to figure out that I could tie the colours together in a landscape by putting on a kind of a medium shade like this. So what I would do is I would look at a landscape, I would pick out what colours are there. So if there's a lot of browns and a lot of yellows, I would go in with a very thin coat, a very watery mix of a soft, light kind of a brown, a medium brown like this. And then I could put on darks and put on lights. So I just find it's pretty similar to tinting a canvas, but only this is wet. All right, that's what I would say. So it's a very wet tint on a canvas. And just go along like that, fill that in. It just allows me then to establish colours and kind of match colours as closely as I can to the photograph. Now, there we go. So we have a nice layer, a nice simple, thin, very thin watery layer. You see how thin that is? Look, it's very watery, you see? Very, very thin. I'm just basically trying to cover the white of the canvas, nothing else. Next thing I'm going to do, while I have this brush, look, we might as well put in some mountains, will we? Let's put in some mountains in the distance. Same brush, little bit of crimson, little bit of, oh sorry, not crimson, a little bit of magenta and a touch of phthalo blue. I actually haven't used crimson in a very long time because I find the magenta is suitable for most of what I need. And with that colour now, I'm just going to pop a few little mountains and hills up there into the sky. And you can see I'm not even making them absolutely perfect or anything like that. It's just an indication of some land off in the distance, nothing else. Then I'll take some black maybe with some blue. And I come over to this side where it's slightly cooler. And I'm going to put one or two in just over there. And I'm even softening these into the sort of the sky colour as well. I'm just sort of softening it off into the sky, you see. It's not a very solid line. And I try to do that when painting hills and stuff like that. I don't like putting very sharp, solid lines in a hill. You can see the way I'm kind of just dragging this across the fibre of the canvas, letting it soften away out up into the sky here and there. Okay, now for the next part I'm going to just quickly switch brushes to a smaller brush. I'll make sure it's slightly damp, and I'm going to go in with some Naples yellow, burnt sienna, and let's say a bit of white. And I could even add a touch of magenta. So you can see I have a light, sort of a warm, pinky, yellowy, kind of pastel sort of a shade. And I'm just going to go off in the distance there and put one or two. See what I mean? I'm just softening them in. And the only reason for this now, I'll be honest, is just to create a little interest in those hills way off. That's really the only reason. The There's no particular reason for it. I just think a little bit of light off in the distance there might really help. So it's kind of broken up the sky just a little bit, hasn't it? Get a bit more of that colour, that's nice. Just reinstall some of those, just reinforce some of the colour just a bit. You don't have to do this, of course. If you're happy leaving your painting as it is, that's absolutely fine. There's no pressure to do this. I'm just giving you a few hints and tips as I go along, you know, just showing you just how to add the impression of a little bit of detail into the painting. That's all. Well, that was nice and easy to do, wasn't it? Next, I'm going to go back to my slightly bigger brush. I'm going to put some nice darks in. So again, a very slightly damp brush. Let's get some black and let's get some red. Black and red, it makes a very dark kind of a browny colour. And I'm just going to start swooping little bits like this into the scene. Now it's very important when doing something like this, we want to create perspective. So you can see the way a lot of these brush strokes and knife marks or whatever are going sort of at an angle off into the distance. So for example, look, if I drag one like this way off and just leave it, do the same at this side. You can see the way it's creating an impression of everything going to one point. See that? It's just that impression. A little bit of sienna, a little bit of red. Come over here and let's just drag a couple of those across into the center as well. Then I come down with some black and a bit of cadmium red. Very dark, down at the bottom. I'm using almost just paint on its own at this stage. And I'm dragging the paint around, leaving it really drag around and mixing with the colours on the canvas. I'll do the same just up here. Maybe just a little bit of dark going across. This is the early stages as well. I'm just kind of developing my darker colours. So you can see now we have a lot of dark, we have a little bit of light in the centre. After this, from here on, it's all palette knife. So put that down. Let's grab a palette knife. My flat one, I love the flat one. It's ideal for this kind of thing. And basically, let's just grab some colour. I'm going to go with Naples yellow. I come over here where it's clean. And some cadmium yellow. And I want to get that kind of soft straw yellowy look. So let's take a touch of burnt sienna as well. Let's see what happens with this colour. That sort of straw field kind of a colour. It's a tricky colour to sort of explain. It's kind of a soft yellowy hint of orangey kind of a colour. Let's try this. So I'm going to pick a point and just go boom, right across. Let's just drag that right across like that. And then what I do is I sort of flatten my knife out and I allow that then to sort of drag along the grain of the canvas. You see what I'm doing there? I'm letting the canvas take the paint off for me. I'm not pushing down very, very hard. Now, that's a nice little light already, isn't it? Let's go again, because this is a lot of fun. A lot of the light is concentrated on the center here, isn't it? So I'm just going to drag it across like this and allow it to sort of filter and soften out as I go. Now, by doing this little wiggly motion here, you see that? You're creating the impression of lots of little fields way off in the distance. So lots of stuff going on in the distance. That type of impression, it creates that lovely impression. Let me get some Naples yellow, pop it in there. So we have a slightly brighter colour now. And I'm going to just drag that colour, go at a slight angle like this first. And then I will do the very same thing. Here and there, like that. You see these little lines? Just drag them across. I'm just sort of creating the impression of individual little fields, perhaps. Little fields off there out in the distance. And already, even just that on its own, now it looks like we've put a lot of detail and stuff like that into the land, haven't we? It looks like there's lots of little things going on, but it's simply just a palette knife dragging across a canvas. And doing this way, it's so much easier than getting a brush and trying to put in lots of little details like this. Of course you could, but I just find this much more rewarding. That's the word I'm looking for. Now, burnt sienna and some cadmium yellow, and that's going to really sort of brighten up as it comes forward a little bit here. So I want to create that nice kind of field just in front of us here. We have a lovely little field, and it's a very warm colour. So as the colours come closer and closer to us, they tend to get slightly warmer, yes? That helps you a lot with the impression of distance. So you see now this kind of warm yellowy colour that I have, a bit more sienna. That kind of warm sienna sort of a hue there. It just really kind of pushes everything else back slightly, doesn't it? Now just keep going like this. If you want, you could just go straight across the canvas with some nice stripes, things like that, of course. It's completely up to yourself. But I'm just looking at the photograph there now and trying to get some nice warm colours in there. Some cadmium red, some cadmium yellow. That's a nice warm colour that might come in handy. As it comes out of the painting, perhaps a bit of orange. Nice patches of orange off there in the distance. Now, if you want to give it even more of a glow, you could just grab cadmium yellow and a little Naples yellow. Now this will really give it a very bright glow, okay? So just be careful with this colour. Little bit like that, sort of popping along. And that's a nice, rich, bright colour as well, isn't it? You know, just little touches of it here and there, and that just really catches our eye, then that colour. Let's try that again. Bit of yellow, bit of white, and let's just drag that across. And I want to bring it down at a kind of a slight angle, like this, because it gets very dark down towards the bottom then, doesn't it? So as well as doing that now, I'm going to just go over to this side and add a little touch of light here and there. Because the light from the clouds is sort of catching the fields just here and there. It's not everywhere, just a little bit here and there as well as catching the fields. Okay, so I'm going to stop at that now for a moment. Already we have a lovely effect, don't we? And I would be quite happy just to leave that as it is. It's a lovely bright landscape. But I just want to grab some darks for the bottom down here. Let's take some burnt umber and some black. So a really dark colour now. I'm going to move my canvas out at the bottom just a tiny bit so I can get my knife in. And I'm going to put that nice dark colour down at the bottom, down there. I'm basically just creating the impression of, it could be fields, there could be one or two hedges in there. Let me get some more paint, a little bit of black, and I also need some burnt umber. Where's my burnt umber? And I might grab a little touch of sienna as well. There we go. And a touch of sienna. Already I'm enjoying painting this so much. It's just so refreshing. It really is, to paint something like this. Just with no restrictions, you're not being forced to try and get it perfect every time. It's just a wonderful way to paint. I'm going to put some real dark colours down the bottom down here. Just going to sort of drag them along like that. And what I'm also going to do is pop in little touches of, could be hedges, you see what I mean? It could be anything. You have to let your imagination go with a painting like this. I find, because if you try to paint actual hedges and little buildings and all of that kind of stuff, you'll become frustrated. Apologies. I find if you just add a little hint of something here and there, it gives it an air of mystery about it, about the painting. So you're looking in at the painting and you're wondering, oh, what's that? Is that a little building there? Would that be a little row of trees over there? That kind of thing, do you understand? So you're giving a little bit of mystery to the painting as well, which is very important, because that's what will catch someone's eye, when there's a bit of mystery about a painting. People love that. People love looking at a painting, I find, and being sort of almost intrigued to what something is. You know, what could it be? And I love that about painting, I really do. I'll take a little bit of black. Pop a little bit of black in here and there. Create some, perhaps, divisions in the landscape. So, for example, I could go along here now and put something across there like that. All right. And I'm not trying to paint, you know, any particular little feature in the landscape. I'm just trying to make it look like there's a lot of different things going on. Different fields, hedges, all that kind of stuff. Even off in the distance, look, if you want to put a little couple of dabs of black with the tip of your palette knife somewhere here and there, look, that just again gives you that little touch of detail. You see what I mean? It's just kind of, it's all evolving as you go along. Now, okay, in doing that, I am going to do the very same again with some light colours. So for example, let me just get some Naples yellow and maybe a touch of sienna. So I'm also going to do the very same with some light colour as well. A soft brown, a Naples yellowy kind of a brown. And I'm just going to go along and just pop one or two bits and bobs in here and there. I'm going to break up this area ever so slightly as well, just so we have a nice flow from light into dark. I don't want to create too much sort of contrasting colours too soon. So I just want to allow these to kind of almost merge together very gently. So even in the dark down here, look, I'm going to bring a little touch of orange into that as well. And perhaps touch of it there, look. And don't feel like you're worried that you're going to overwork the painting either, because it's quite difficult to overwork a painting like this, I think. So look, what I'm going to do next is take some of the very bright colours. I'm going to get some, even just some Naples yellow on its own. And I don't know if you could see on the reference photograph, there's lots of little impressions of bits and bobs off in the distance over there. It's like little buildings, could be anything, little buildings, little telegraph poles, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of that going on off in the distance. So look, I'll even grab a little bit of white, pop a little touch of white in there with my little palette knife, just at the tip of my palette knife, you see. And you're just giving the illusion of some things. You see now how straight away that gives you the impression of maybe a little village or something way off in the distance. It could be anything. But you can't see what they are by looking at the photograph. Or sorry, looking at the painting. You can't really tell what they are. All you know is that there's something over there catching the light. Perhaps a few telegraph poles, look. One or two off in the landscape, just dotting the landscape here and there. And again, that just adds a little touch of something to the painting. It gives it that bit of mystery, doesn't it? Now, I am going to also pop the impression of a little house in around the front here, perhaps with a little light grey or something like that. So perhaps let's just go like that. Okay, and maybe just a little bit there. And again, it's really only just to suggest that there's bits and pieces kind of hiding amongst the bushes and the ditches and all that kind of thing. It's really just an impression. So you can see now how immediately that just has a certain effect. And you could even add a little touch of detail into this one if you wanted. And maybe give the impression of one or two sorts of trees or something like that. Okay, and you can use your brush for this now if you like. You don't have to use a palette knife. I'm just using a palette knife for this just to create a very rough effect of maybe a row of little hedges or something. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. I'm going to take some black now as well, and I'm going to put one or two dark telegraph poles into the painting. Okay, nice and simple. Let me get some burnt umber. I'm going to drag some burnt umber across here. Grab some of that black, drag some of the black in. So you can see I'm just really having some fun with this. Just grabbing my paint. I might as well use it as it's on my palette. I don't need it for anything else, so I might as well just use it up. And you know what? I'm very happy with this, how this has turned out. For you know, a 30 or 40 minute tutorial, it's amazing what you can create just with a few simple brush strokes with a knife. Just scratch some paint across here and there. If you feel you want to brighten some little things, let's just simply get some Naples yellow and a little white, maybe a touch of cadmium yellow. Mix them together there, create a nice highlight, and just drag that across here and there, across the center, look. So putting this in the center of the painting will really catch someone's eye as soon as they look at this, because what they see is that bright spot right in the middle. And it's a very effective way of creating a painting which is very eye-catching, but very, very simply done. Very easily done with just a palette knife and a bit of paint. And I don't think we need to I don't think we need to continue on with this anymore. You can continue adding little bits of this and that if you like. Completely up to yourself. You can keep going with it, but I would be careful not to go too far with this. And I'm going to call that finished. Done, my friends, done. If you find there's a bit too much going on off in the distance, like I think there is, well, maybe a little bit too much, you could just soften them back in with your palette knife. Look, just scratch across them with your palette knife. Just one or two. Flatten them out, you know. Let's soften this away off into the distance here. So you see, you could just flatten them out a little bit with your palette knife. And if you wanted to grab a very small pointy brush, you could then just take something like white on its own, add a few little dots of white, a couple of little dabs of colour just here and there. It's only just enough to sort of catch your eye and get you thinking. All right, that's all. Get people thinking. And I would say we're finished. I don't think we need to continue on. I will actually put a tiny bit of just cadmium red on its own, just here and there, because just to add a little bit of colour into the landscape, just at tiny little points. So for example, how about even some cadmium yellow, just a tiny touch. It could be a roof, it could be a building, it could be anything at all. And those tiny few colours, I think, is just enough to draw you in ever so slightly. Now, what do we think about that, my friends? A nice simple landscape. I'm quite happy with that. I think that turned out quite nice. Look, I could perhaps warm, if you wanted to warm one or two of the yellows, if you think they're a bit cool, take some cadmium red and some cadmium yellow, mix them together with your knife very quickly, and just add a touch of that warm colour here and there. And again, that's just warming the landscape slightly. Any mix with some red will always add warmth into your landscape. Just a touch. And that's it, my friends. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. I'm quite happy with this. I think this has turned out very well, and it would make a very eye-catching painting when it's framed and hanging on a wall. And I think somebody would be delighted to have this as a centerpiece in a room, any room in the house. Nice little frame on that. Lovely, very nice. And I'm very impressed with that now. Just a simple little scene, a palette knife, one or two brushes, and just have some fun. Just scrape paint on with a palette knife, scratch it, scrape it, do anything you like. Just have a bit of fun with it, and you'll be very surprised at the results. I'll be back very soon, my friends. Thank you so much for your support. I hope you're enjoying the tutorials, and Christmas is on the way now, so maybe a couple of winter scenes, some snow, something like that, something unusual with some snow, a bit of frost. So let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much. I'll speak to you very soon again in the coming week or so, and happy painting. Do email me if you're trying this. I'd love to see how you get on. I'd love to see it. God bless, my friends. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening, and happy painting. Take care.